Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Thunder here. Well, I'm going to talk today about all kinds of things. I don't know why I'm doing so many videos. Maybe I'm just bored. I don't know. Some people like to hear me talk. I put myself to sleep sometimes, but when I review my videos, it's all right. I feel like Charlie McCarthy, the puppet, with great spirits pulling the strings. So I only talk about things that are important, and I try to speak truth. I like to let spirit flow through me. So today, the China debacle continues, and that's just an unraveling like you wouldn't believe. Unraveling the whole financial thing. It's going to cause a meltdown. Trust me. I talked about this 3, 4, 5 videos ago. Seems like it's kind of happening, people. And the stock market, I think, closed down about 500 points today. So their plunge protection team is working overtime, and it ain't doing too much good. So we'll see. And then there's black swan events going on that could really affect this thing, okay? Like KIEV, there's like a huge uprising with the right sector. Now let me explain this so that people don't know. Basically, the USA supported a Nazi regime, and there was a lot of elements in it, and the right sector is super Nazi, and then the rest of them are kind of like halfway Nazi, or not so radical Nazi. And so you got Nazis fighting Nazis right now. Who knows if that's spurred on by some CIA movement to get Poroshenko out? I don't know. All I know is that the people in the southeast of Ukraine are going to suffer one way or another, and it's going to explode. It's really like, this is super powder keg. It's like the powder sitting there and the fuse and the fires on the ground, and this thing could blow wide open in the next couple of days unless they somehow put a lid on it. The argument seems to be over the radicals, the radical right sector, again, who was supported by our CIA, our government, supported Nazis. Let's get this real straight. And now look what's happening. It's like it's blowing up. And countless thousands of people have died, innocent people have died. And this whole thing's going to blow sky high, and it could involve Crimea and Russia and everything. Because this right sector, this radical right sector, doesn't like the fact that there was Minsk agreements. But then when you look at it, it doesn't matter, because the Minsk agreements are dead anyway and never held any water. Like I said, from the day after they were made, it's a play-acting thing. And so this radical right sector is fighting because the Minsk agreements, which don't mean anything anyway. Okay, so does that make sense to you? No. So it's not about the Minsk agreements. It's about a power play. Okay, and certain elements are getting out of control. Like it was obvious. See, that's how the U.S. works. They start something, and then it gets out of their control, and next thing you know, it's a total mess. FUBAR, effed up beyond all recognition. FUBAR. That's a powder keg, people. And then you got the China thing, the China syndrome, which I talked about in my last video. And see, I just talk from the heart here. I just get information, intel, news. I'm not like a talking head like Greg Hunter and all these other guys. I'm just giving you info on it, and I talk straight. I talk about what the real deal really is. I'm going to talk about alternative media in a bit here. So I've covered two things here, China and KIEV, and just the China thing doesn't look good, and I don't know really if they're going to be able to patch up this financial thing. Don't look good, people. Nothing looks good, if you ask me. There isn't one thing that looks good right now. It's all a total chaotic mess. including thing in Syria. I hear tell Russia's is going over there and got their own air force over there and is going to go do some raids on ISIS because they know that ISIS is a proxy army to the U.S. Wonder how the U.S. is going to like that. See, so we're teetering on the brink here in Ukraine, Syria, China's teetering everything. This looks like the world's perfect storm to me, the perfect chaotic storm. Don't know. What do you think? And if that wasn't bad enough, we got the drought in California, which I've been watching very closely because I'm stuck here, basically. I'm stuck. Don't see anywhere for me to go. I'd like to go back to Arizona. I've talked about that, but oh well. People here are in la-la land because, I mean, okay, so they're talking about on this drought thing in California, which is the worst drought in the history of the world. Okay, the world. It's turning into a desert here, which is basically what it was before everybody moved in anyway, but there ain't no water, people. It's going way, way down. And what is Jerry Brown's big answer? Well, let's conserve. Oh, really? Are you going to start bottling water and selling it next instead of turning on the tap? Because that's what it's going to amount to. Now they're banking on, this is what they're banking on, the big hope is that El Nino, which is a temperate condition out in the Pacific Ocean, maybe other oceans too, I don't know. I know it's the Pacific, it heats up, right? El Nino, the child, the boy child, Nino, I think. Nina would be girl, yeah. So, the boy child that's brewing out at sea right now, supposedly, is going to bring a shitload of rain in here and like a deluge. That's funny because Thunder was praying for a deluge. Isn't that funny? Incidentally, I saw a red-tailed hawk today in the park, and it flew several flybys over my head, which is always a good sign to me since the red-tailed hawk is my totem, and it sat there and talked and screeched at me for a good 20 minutes. We had a nice long conversation. Maybe it was trying to tell me about this drought thing. Maybe it was trying to warn me, okay, to get the hell out of California if I have to, like, hitchhike. Because once this shit starts, if El Nino, see, again, I kind of interrupted myself, but El Nino is supposed to, like, save everything. Oh, really? El Nino is going to come in. What it's going to do is it's going to dump a bunch of rain. Maybe, if it pans out. We don't even know if it will. You can't predict the weather that closely. It'll pull a 180 on you with the stuff they got going, but supposedly they're counting on that to, like, yeah, it's going to save California, man. Really? Well, let me tell you something. I read some facts. I looked up some facts on El Nino and how much good it would do for the drought, and it would, like, barely make a dent in it even if it rained all winter. So that shows you how bad the drought is. It would barely make a dent in the drought if it rained all winter. And if it does, it's going to cause mudslides, and this place is so dried out, it's going to be a mucky mess, let me tell you. So that's going to be horrific in itself because there'll be hillsides caving in and sliding down, covering people up with mud. This has happened before. But this is it's going to be out of control if this happens. If that weather comes in, they're like, yeah, this is going to be our savior. Oh, really? It's going to kick some butts, what it's going to do. And then it ain't going to solve the problem. So that's straight talk from Thunder about all this stuff. And nothing's solving there's no problems being solved right now. There's nothing, I mean, the KIEV thing is just a tape loop that's just getting worse and worse and worse, and it keeps going round and round, and these people are going, I saw something that I laughed my ass off the other day. It was like, Merkel and French President Hollande and Russia, they agreed to be in touch by phone. Oh, God, come on. Wow, that's really going to do a lot of good, isn't it? Let's chit chat on the phone while everything's going down in flames there. I don't know. I think Russia is going to be pushed so hard into a corner over this thing. I mean, if they go after Crimea, they're going to have to deal with Putin, I guess. Who knows? Okay, so what else did I want to talk about? I covered a lot of ground today. Let's say Kiev, China, drought. Got a little list here. I rarely do that, but I'm losing my memory. I'm losing my mind, people. So I look at this, sometimes I look at a list now, see what I want to talk about because I forget things. Oh. Just a word about the alternative media here. I said I was going to talk about this, and I said I don't get a bunch of hits, do I? No, like 100 at most. Some of these guys that come on, like Greg Hunter and Gregory Manarino and Dave with X22 and these people, they get like 1,000, 2,000 friggin' hits in 2 days. Now, I'm just looking at their channels and I'm going, okay, so Greg, I kind of like Greg because we've talked before, and he started off kind of like a long-haired hippie a long time ago. Don't mean to pull your covers here, Greg, but that don't make you all bad. That makes you good in my book. And he was just like a worker at Bear Stearns, and he started getting into the financial thing, and he does know quite a bit about it. I'll have to hand him that. He's repetitive as hell, though, but he backed off a little. He's not doing them every day. And he's big into being your own central bank and keeping gold and silver. Well, you know how I feel about that anyway. So I give him like a thumbs up. He's worth listening to. I listen to him, and he's got some good insight sometimes, you know, and he answers questions that he has knowledge about, and he kind of, to me, speaks truthful. I kind of get a good feeling from him. So I give him a thumbs up. Now let's go to Greg Hunter, which is his friend. Greg Hunter's like a refugee from CNN, and he's got Watchdog USA. I think it's a little late for having a watchdog on the USA, but I think the USA's already been taken over or has already gone by the wayside. So you can watch all you want. It ain't going to do much good. And his agenda is kind of like, he's okay. It's kind of like, you know, wars and rumors of wars. Well, that's a Christian thing. He's looking for the down. And he always asks the same questions. How's it going to look to the man on the street? He's got all these gold guys on him, guys that deal with heavy weights. High rollers, okay, which are kind of the enemy, aren't they? But he has them on anyway to get the supposedly the nitty-gritty. But what are they on for? To promote themselves and their agenda and their gold selling and buying, but yet spout all this doom and gloom off, and for the agenda of like buy gold and silver because that's your only safe haven. That ain't the only safe haven, people, and I've told you that. But in the process of doing this, Hunter does uncover some things, and he does speak truth on some things, and he does point out the fact of lies by omission by the mainstream media and press and USA Today and blah, 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 on and on and on. But again, that's repetitive too. And but what choice do we have here, really? Now, do I rely on just these guys? And okay, let's go with Dave at X22. He's repetitive too, and he talks about getting silver and gold. And I don't know who Dave is. I don't think anybody does, and I don't know where he worked. I heard he worked on Wall Street and was a money guy at one time. And he does tell a lot of truths. But I just kind of shake my head because all these people, they're like coming from the same place. it's a doom and gloom type thing, and but I guess if that's what pervades the universe right now, what options do we have? I don't know. You guys give your little vote. I might take a poll on this. I'm not going to put myself in that poll because that's kind of ridiculous. I don't consider myself a talking head. I just kind of consider myself head of the Campfire Council that likes to give people a heads up on things and, share my thoughts and feelings. And I don't know what that's worth, really. Some people really like listening to me, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm truthful. Even though I could be wrong at times, I'm truthful. I just speak about what I feel. I don't know. I don't see this. I kind of see this as a paradoxical situation here. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Who do you listen to? Who do you pay attention to? There's so much disinformation going around, and so many agendas behind that disinformation and just information. I don't know if it's disinfo or info. Who knows? Who knows if it is? We have to kind of like sort it out, don't we? And try to sort it out and see if it makes sense. Guess the best way is just to look around at society sometimes. Just look at society and go, well, what do I see in society? Homeless people all over the place. Excuse me. Homeless people all over the place, and elderly being treated like crap, financial troubles, emphasis or importance placed on the wrong things. It's kind of horrific, isn't it? But again, I kind of wonder about the alternative and the mainstream and this and that. And I sometimes don't even I dig beyond that. I dig beyond the mainstream. Excuse me. I dig beyond the mainstream and dig up little articles and go on what Spirit tells me to look into. And so I don't know if I'm really serving a purpose here. And I come from the native viewpoint and the indigenous person's viewpoint for obvious reasons. Sometimes I think that this whole thing is being orchestrated by our ancestors somehow. I don't know. That's my hope and desire, we'll say. I don't know, really. All I know is that if people really want to know what's going on in the world, they just have to look. They have to delve into other areas that not even the alternative media talks about too much, like Fukushima and all the radiation coming from that, and all the radiation coming from all the plants all over around the world and in the U.S. that are broken. We know there's chemtrails. It's obvious. You look up in the sky and boom, there they are. We know the weather's weird because we look around and boom, there it is. Summer and winter and summer and no rain in some places and all kinds of rain in others. That's out of balance. And we live in this, we're like, this is all connected. We're all connected. And so we're going to be out of balance if this stuff's all out of balance. So it's kind of important to us to try to bring balance to it somehow, but that's something that I think about also on these alternative news channels, is that got all these comments and it's like there's so many, I guess they called trolls, aren't they? that come on there and try to just, somebody might make a halfway decent comment that seems like common sense and truth, and then somebody will come in and just be malicious and torpedo them and just rip them to shreds like a mad dog, okay? And it's like, is that the kind of people that hang out on these? Are those some of the thousands of viewers? And I wonder about, how did they get thousands of viewers? I mean, I've been on as long as I've been doing video. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos. I was going through looking for a video that I did to post, and I'm like, I've got 10 pages of videos with more than 10, 15 videos on each page, maybe 20. I'm like, man, have I done this many videos? I think it's time for Thunder to retire. I've probably covered every subject known to mankind. And for what? I keep getting subscribers, but I don't get like 1 million hits or anything. People might hear one thing I like and subscribe, and might not like the other stuff I say, so I don't know. Can't win them all, can you? So I don't know. I'm just shaking my head like I always do, and I get inspired to do a video like this and talk about a few things. Then I might go for a long time, or Thunder might just vaporize in thin air. And if I do, well, guess there ain't going to be that many people that miss me. So I'm not going to have to worry about my legacy. What happened to Thunder, man? Like, I mean, if Greg Manarino or Hunter or one of those guys disappeared, like, it'd be thousands of people. What happened? Well, I don't get my fix today. I don't know how they get thousands of people, you know. It's just something, it's suspect to me. Don't know why. It's just, why would thousands of people want to listen to the same, basically the same thing, the same shit, different day, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? Thousands of viewers over and over and over again. Same thing. It's just basically, you could do 2 videos. Okay. You could do 2 videos or 3 videos a week or even a month, and not that much has changed. Has that much changed since, a year ago? Has that much changed since with the Ukraine thing? And has that much changed with the financial thing? And has that much changed with all this stuff we talk about over and over and over ad nauseum? Even some of the, even Greg says sometimes, and I've covered this ad nauseum, so at least he admits to that, but are they trying to drive a point home or something, saying this stuff over and over and over and over and over again, like 3 times a month or twice a week would be sufficient to cover. I left the whole internet for a while, didn't even watch it for like a month, 2 months, and I came back and was like, same thing. Same exact thing happening, nothing's changed. And all the time we're sitting here watching this stuff, getting worried on the edge of our seats. See, I think they plan it that way. I think they plan it that way. I mean, that's what makes me suspicious about even the alternative media. It's like, do they plan it that way? To keep people like anxious and on the edge of their seat. It's going to happen. It's going to happen any day. It's going to happen any day. Big financial collapse. It's going to happen. That's going to happen. I mean, yeah, it could happen. It could happen. But it'll happen when it happens. And if you think it's going to happen, it isn't going to do you a whole lot of good to sit around on YouTube watching it, making dumb comments and not preparing, is it? That's one thing I like about the council, is that we prepare, and I admonish preparing, and I admonish getting your spiritual act together. I'm not a saint, okay? I just want to make that clear. I'm just a normal guy, although with a touch of shamanism thrown in there, maybe more than a touch, maybe a heavy-duty dose. But that doesn't make me a saint. I'm not a saint. I cuss. I have wants and desires and humor like any other man, okay? I like women. I like firearms. I like motorcycles. I like, you know, I have my hobbies. I like radios. And I'm just a normal guy, okay? So anybody that ever would try to say that I'm something other than that, I'm not, okay? And I don't want to be thought of as anything other than a normal guy that might be somewhat of a wisdom keeper and shaman, okay, in the tradition of medicine men. I just might be. But no medicine man thought he was better than anybody else. And no medicine man thought that every action had to fall on his words. The words are just put out there for people to either get something out of them or not. So I think, you know, I basically said enough today. I think I'm going to end, though, on one more thing that I'm remembering. That's politics, because it's kind of come up recently. I have this to say about politics. I have a friend, Ben Carnes, who's a Lakota, and he lives in I think he lives in South Dakota, on the res, maybe, I don't know, near it. He was on the board for Leonard Peltier's committee to try to get him out of jail for a while. So I've talked to him email-wise, or we're not friends. I'm an acquaintance of his. But anyway, I'll quote what he says is POLY-TICS. Okay, I like this saying, POLY-TICS, many ticks. Poly meaning many, and ticks, poly-tics, meaning blood-sucking ticks, okay? And I don't think that they're worth anything. None of the politicians out there, I wouldn't care if you got a Native American in there tomorrow and they said they were going to be president or whatever. I wouldn't trust anybody. I don't care who it is, because you have all these grand plans when you get involved in politics, and then you get turned around right on your ass and controlled. You don't have any control when you get in there, and so politics is a sham. It's a doesn't have anything to do with democracy. It's all planned out. It's all, even the voting is rigged. So you can go out and vote all day long for whoever you want to, and you're wasting your friggin' time. Period. End of story. Doesn't have anything to. Have you heard of anybody delivering any promises they made in like the last 20 years? Has one politician in there not been controlled by special interests? Can you answer that truthfully? If you can, then it doesn't mean shit to vote. So don't bother. It's all manipulated. It's just like the financial thing and everything else. So don't waste your time with it. I think I voted twice in my whole life. Twice. And I regretted that because I got sucked into thinking that there was going to be some kind of change in the status quo. None whatsoever. Not one. Not one. And nobody cares about indigenous people. Nobody cares about the citizenship. It's not about that. It's about their paycheck. It's about their power. It's about their pride. It's about their paycheck. It's about their paycheck. It's about their paycheck. And their position of supposed power, which isn't. Those people are stupid. I'm smarter than like most of the politicians running around. And I'm not running for office, am I? And I wouldn't even dirty myself with that scum. So I guess you know how Thunder feels about politics. And the Campfire Council as a whole, I mean, people in there, you can do what you want to do if you want to waste your time. If you want to waste your time. But it's not part of the Campfire Council's tenets or prospectus or view. Because that don't work. That doesn't work. And we don't go with things that don't work. We go with things that work, which is bonding together as a unified one people and helping each other. That works if you do it. If you don't do it, that don't work either. So take that for what it's worth, and take this video for what it's worth. This is Thunder. I think I'll just back on out of here now. Over and out.